The backyard shimmered beneath strings of warm golden lights, the kind that made everything look softer and happier than it really was. White roses decorated every table, and a large banner stretched across the wooden fence. "Congratulations, Lena, class of 2026, to everyone gathered there." It looked like the perfect graduation party. Neighbors laughed over glasses of lemonade. My teachers congratulated me with proud smiles. My classmates snapped pictures near the flower arch my mother had insisted on renting. I should have been happy. After all, I had worked for this moment. 4 years of sleepless nights, endless exams, and fighting for every grade had earned me the top rank in my class and a full scholarship to Brookdale University. This was supposed to be the night my parents finally looked at me with pride. Instead, I stood near the patio doors with an uneasy knot twisting in my stomach. Something felt wrong. My mother, Susan Carter, had been unusually cheerful all evening, her smile too polished, too rehearsed. My father, Mark, kept exchanging strange glances with her as if they shared a private joke. "Stand up straighter." My mother whispered sharply as she passed by, pinching my arm hard enough to sting. "People are watching." I forced a smile. That was what I'd done my entire life. Smile when they forgot my birthday. Smile when they skipped my school plays. Smile when they praised my younger brother Tyler for average grades while ignoring my straight A's. And always, always smile when they reminded me how lucky I was to have them. At exactly 7:30, my father clinked his fork against his glass. The chatter faded. "Everyone, if I could have your attention," he called, grinning broadly. Guests turned toward him. My mother stepped beside him holding a microphone, her expensive bracelet sparkling beneath the lights. I suddenly felt cold. Dad raised his glass. "Tonight, we celebrate Lena's graduation and the sacrifices our family made to get here." Polite applause followed. My stomach tightened. "There's something most of you don't know," my mother said into the microphone, her voice carrying across the yard. The crowd fell silent. She turned toward me with a smile that sent ice down my spine. "Lena is adopted." The words hit me like a physical blow. For a moment, I thought I had heard wrong. A stunned murmur rippled through the crowd. My pulse roared in my ears. What? I stared at her, waiting for her to laugh, to explain this was some horrible joke. But she only smiled wider. "We adopted her as an infant through a state assistance program." My father continued casually. I couldn't breathe. My entire life, they had never once told me I was adopted. Not once. The ground beneath me felt unsteady. Then my mother laughed lightly and added, "Honestly, we weren't even planning to adopt, but the monthly state checks made it worth considering." Gasps erupted around the yard. Several guests exchanged horrified looks. My face burned. No, she didn't mean. Dad chuckled and lifted his drink. Times were hard back then. The government practically paid us to raise her. The words sliced through me. Everything suddenly made sense. The distance, the coldness, the endless reminders that I owed them. I wasn't their daughter, I was income. I took a shaky step backward. Across the yard, Tyler stared at our parents in disbelief. "This isn't funny," he muttered, but they kept going. "Still," Mom said with mock pride, "I suppose our investment paid off. Full scholarship and all." A few awkward laughs sputtered from the crowd, but most people stood frozen in stunned silence. My vision blurred with tears. Every memory twisted painfully inside me. Every moment I'd chased their approval. Every time I'd wondered why I never felt loved. Because I had never been loved, I turned and ran. The sound of my mother calling my name followed me, but I didn't stop until I reached the front porch. I collapsed onto the steps, shaking. Hot tears streamed down my face as 18 years of confusion and hurt crashed over me. I was still gasping for breath when headlights swept across the driveway. A black car rolled to a stop. An older man in a dark suit stepped out, carrying a leather briefcase. He approached slowly, his expression solemn. "Lena Carter?" he asked. I wiped my eyes. Yes. He opened his briefcase and removed a thick ivory envelope sealed with dark blue wax. Across the front, written in elegant handwriting, were the words, "To our daughter, Lena, to be opened on her 18th birthday, my breath caught." At the bottom were two unfamiliar names. Eleanor and James Holloway. The man looked at me gently. "My name is Daniel Whitmore," he said. "I'm the attorney for your biological parents." And in that moment, I realized the truth my adoptive parents had hidden was far bigger than their cruelty. My hands trembled as I stared at the ivory envelope. The dark blue wax seal glimmered beneath the porch light, stamped with a crest of a soaring bird, surrounded by stars. It looked expensive, elegant, nothing like the cheap birthday cards my adoptive parents had tossed at me over the years.
The older man stood patiently before me, his expression kind but solemn. "I know this is overwhelming," he said gently.
"But your biological parents wanted this delivered to you personally on your 18th birthday." I swallowed hard, trying to steady my breathing. Behind us, muffled laughter and music still drifted from the backyard. My graduation party was continuing, as though my entire world hadn't just shattered. I looked down at the names written across the envelope. Eleanor and James Holloway, my biological parents. For 18 years I had believed I was simply unwanted, that whoever had brought me into this world had abandoned me. Now, holding proof that they had thought of me enough to leave this letter, I felt my chest tighten with confusion and hope. "Who were they?" I whispered. The man adjusted his glasses. "My name is Daniel Whitmore. I was your parents' attorney and close friend." His voice softened. "They loved you deeply, Lena." The words hit me harder than I expected. Loved me. A tear slipped down my cheek. If they loved me, I asked shakily, why did they give me away? Daniel's expression darkened. They didn't. My head snapped up. "What?" He motioned toward the porch swing. "Sit down. There's much you need to know." I sank onto the swing, clutching the envelope tightly. Daniel sat across from me and took a slow breath. "Your parents, James and Eleanor Holloway, were well-known philanthropists. They owned Holloway Technologies, a company valued in the millions." I blinked. Millions, the word felt unreal. They were respected throughout the state for their charity work, especially with children's education programs. None of it made sense. If they were wealthy, I said slowly, then why was I adopted through a state program? Daniel's jaw tightened. "That is precisely the lie your adoptive parents told." Cold dread crawled through me. 16 years ago, your parents died in a car accident while traveling to a charity gala. My breath caught. They had prepared detailed legal instructions in case anything happened to them. Those instructions placed you temporarily into foster care until your 18th birthday, when your inheritance and all family records would legally transfer to you. I stared at him. That doesn't explain how I ended up with the Carters. He hesitated. Mark Carter worked in the county social services office at the time. The blood drained from my face. "No," Daniel nodded grimly. "He used his position to manipulate your placement records. He and Susan falsely presented themselves as ideal guardians. They claimed they wanted to provide a loving home. A wave of nausea hit me. They lied, yes." Daniel opened his briefcase and removed a folder thick with papers. "There's more." He handed me a financial statement. I scanned it, barely understanding the legal language. Then one line made my stomach lurch. Monthly trust disbursements for Lena Holloway's care. $40000. My eyes widened. They were receiving this every month, Daniel confirmed. Funds your parents established specifically for your upbringing, education, and well-being. I felt sick. All those years of hearing we were struggling, the hand-me-down clothes, the denied school trips, the constant guilt over every expense. They had stolen from me, and then humiliated me publicly for money they'd already taken. Tears blurred my vision again, but this time they burned with anger. Daniel leaned forward. "There is one more thing." He gestured to the envelope. "Your mother wrote that letter days before the accident. She asked that it be delivered only when you turned 18. My fingers tightened around it. Slowly, I broke the wax seal. Inside was a handwritten letter. The first line made my breath catch. "My dearest Lena, if you are reading this, then fate has stolen us from you far too soon." A sob escaped my lips. The handwriting was graceful, full of warmth. As I read on, my biological mother described how much they had loved me from the moment I was born. She wrote about my father singing to me every night, about the nursery they had painted pale yellow, about dreams they'd had for my future. Then came the final paragraph. "If the people raising you have failed you, know this. We have left proof of every promise made on your behalf. Trust Daniel. He will help you reclaim what is yours." At the bottom was one final sentence, "And enclosed is the evidence that will expose those who betrayed you." I looked up at Daniel, my heart pounding. What evidence? He met my gaze steadily, the kind that will destroy Mark and Susan Carter. And for the first time that night, through all the pain and heartbreak, I felt something else rise inside me. Justice. For a long moment, I could only stare at Daniel Whitmore. The folder of documents rested in my lap, heavy with the truth that had been hidden from me for 18 years. My biological mother's letter trembled in my hands, her words still echoing in my mind. "Trust Daniel. He will help you reclaim what is yours." The hurt inside me was still raw, sharp enough to steal my breath. But beneath it, something else had begun to grow. Anger. Not the helpless kind I had felt on the porch after my adoptive parents humiliated me. This was colder, clearer, purposeful. "What happens now?" I asked quietly. Daniel's expression sharpened. "Now, we make sure Mark and Susan Carter face the consequences of what they've done." He opened his briefcase again and laid several papers across the porch table. "These are financial records showing every trust payment made for your care since your adoption. Over $800,000 was transferred over the years." My stomach twisted. 800,000, and yet I had worn thrift, store clothes while my mother bought designer handbags. I had skipped school field trips because they claimed they couldn't afford them. I had spent nights studying under a broken desk lamp because they said replacing it was too expensive. All while they were spending money meant for me, they stole all of it. I whispered, "Most of it," Daniel said grimly. "And there's evidence they falsified reports to continue receiving payments." A bitter laugh escaped me. Even now, I could hear my mother's voice lecturing me about gratitude. "We sacrificed everything for you." The lie made my skin crawl. "What do we do?" I asked. Daniel folded his hands. "Tomorrow evening, your adoptive parents are attending the Holloway Children's Foundation charity gala." I frowned. The Holloway Foundation. It was created by your biological parents before their deaths. Mark and Susan have spent years building a public reputation as devoted foster advocates. Tomorrow night, they're scheduled to receive an award for exceptional parental service. The cruel irony made my jaw tighten. They're being honored using my real parents' foundation. Yes, Daniel's eyes darkened, which makes it the perfect place to expose them. A slow, dangerous calm settled over me. I thought about the humiliation they had inflicted tonight, announcing my adoption like it was a joke, reducing my life to a government check. They had laughed while destroying me in front of everyone I knew. Now it was my turn. What do I need to do? Daniel gave a faint smile. Simply show up. The next evening, I stood before the mirror in a navy blue evening gown Daniel had arranged for me. It fit perfectly, elegant but understated. For the first time in my life, I looked at my reflection and saw someone stronger than the frightened girl from the night before. My long dark hair framed my face, and my mother's letter rested safely in my purse. Proof, truth, justice. When Daniel arrived to escort me, his expression softened. Your mother would be proud. The words steadied me. The charity gala was held in the city's grand historic ballroom, glittering beneath crystal chandeliers. Inside, wealthy donors and local officials mingled beneath towering floral arrangements. At the center of it all stood Mark and Susan Carter. My adoptive mother wore a silver gown and a triumphant smile. My father laughed easily with reporters, already basking in the attention. Neither of them noticed me enter. The ballroom lights dimmed. A spotlight illuminated the stage. The host stepped forward. Tonight, we honor two individuals whose dedication to fostering vulnerable children has inspired our entire community. Applause thundered. Mark and Susan climbed the stage, smiling as though they truly deserved it. My stomach churned. Then my mother stepped to the microphone. Thank you, she said warmly. Helping children has always been our life's purpose. Has it? The single word cut through the room like a blade. Silence fell instantly. Every head turned. I stepped forward into the light. My heels clicked sharply against the marble floor. My mother's face drained of color. Lena, she whispered. My father's confident smile vanished. I walked toward the stage, my pulse steady. Interesting speech, I said clearly, my voice carrying across the ballroom, especially from two people who adopted a child for money. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Susan's face twisted. What are you doing? I climbed the stage steps slowly, meeting her horrified stare. Then Daniel Whitmore emerged from the crowd beside me, carrying the folder of evidence. He faced the audience. My name is Daniel Whitmore, attorney for the late James and Eleanor Holloway. The room erupted in whispers. My father staggered backward. No, he muttered. Daniel opened the folder. We have irrefutable proof that Mark and Susan Carter committed financial fraud, stole trust funds intended for Lena Holloway, and falsified state records for 16 years. The silence that followed was deafening. I looked directly at the two people who had spent my life treating me as a burden, and I smiled, because their destruction had only just begun. The ballroom felt like it had stopped breathing. No music, no clinking glasses, no polite applause. Only silence so heavy it pressed against my chest. Mark and Susan Carter stood frozen on the stage, their perfectly rehearsed smiles gone, replaced by something far uglier, fear. My adoptive mother's hands trembled around the microphone. This is ridiculous, she snapped, forcing a laugh that cracked at the edges. She's confused, emotional. This is a family matter, and not anymore. Daniel Whitmore stepped forward again, holding the folder high enough for the front rows to see. Every camera in the room turned toward him. This is a legal matter, he said firmly, and one backed by documented evidence from state records, banking institutions, and the Holloway estate. A wave of murmurs spread through the crowd. My father tried to regain control, stepping forward with his politician's voice. We've raised that girl since she was a baby. Everything we did was out of love, a love, I repeated softly. The word tasted strange on my tongue. I walked closer to the edge of the stage, looking directly at him. You announced I was adopted at a party like it was entertainment. I said, you told strangers I was a paycheck. You stole money meant for my food, my education, my future. Each word made his face tighten. You didn't raise me. I continued. You used me. Susan's eyes flashed. We gave you a home. You gave me silence. I shot back. You gave me guilt. You gave me every reason to believe I was a burden. The ballroom was completely still now. Even the reporters had stopped moving. Daniel opened the final document in the folder. The late James and Eleanor Holloway left a sealed directive, he announced. It was to be read publicly upon Lena Holloway's 18th birthday in the presence of legal witnesses. My heart pounded. I already knew what was coming, but I wasn't prepared for how final it would feel. Daniel's voice softened slightly as he began to read. To our beloved daughter, Lena, if you are hearing this, it means we were not granted the time we prayed for. We want you to know that every breath we took after your birth was for you. A lump formed in my throat. Susan shifted uncomfortably. Mark looked pale. Daniel continued. We built everything we had so you would never suffer. We placed you under legal protection until you became an adult, and we trusted the system to keep you safe. A pause. Then the words that changed everything. If anyone has misused our trust, stolen from you, or harmed your future in any way, we ask that they be held fully accountable. No exceptions. The silence after that sentence was absolute. Daniel closed the letter and attached. He said, is a full audit of trust fund transactions showing over $800,000 misappropriated by the Carters. Gasps erupted across the room. A woman near the front covered her mouth. A man whispered, "Oh my God." Susan's composure finally cracked. That's not true, she screamed. We deserve compensation for raising her. You stole from a child. Daniel interrupted sharply. There is no compensation for that. Security guards began moving toward the stage. My father turned pale as the reality set in. No, he muttered. No, this is a misunderstanding, but no one was listening anymore. Cameras flashed. Reporters rushed forward. Whispers turned into chaos, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one being silenced. I stepped forward one last time. You wanted to announce who I am, I said quietly, looking at them both. So here it is. I lifted my chin. My name is Lena Holloway. A pause, and I am done being your mistake. Susan broke down screaming as security took her arms. Mark tried to protest, but his voice was swallowed by the noise of the crowd. The same people who had applauded them minutes ago now watched in stunned silence as everything they built collapsed in real time. I felt no joy, no cruelty, only release. Daniel stepped beside me gently. It's over, he said, but I shook my head slightly. No, I replied, this is just the consequence. As the Carters were led away, I looked out at the shattered remains of their reputation, and for the first time, I didn't feel small. I felt free,